Good afternoon, sir. First of all, I would like to thank you for taking all the efforts to come to XLRI Jamshedpur, and I hope you have a great time here.
Thank you.
I'll introduce myself. I'm Lasya from the Business Management Program, and with your permission, we can start the interview.
Absolutely. Thank you, first of all, for having me. It's been an exciting day so far. Absolutely love the campus. I've been in the first, just watching the first panel interview, and it's amazing. So thank you for having me. To introduce myself, my name is Venki Ramasubramanian. I'm the VP and GM for ZoomInfo India, and I lead the India Center. Just to let you guys know, ZoomInfo is a go-to-market platform. It's like, as you guys, many of you are into marketing and sales and so on. So it has multiple products. One is a marketing, where the product can be used for creating lead gens, lead generations, doing ABM, marketing campaigns, and so on. The next product is, which is our biggest product, is sales. So you can use it to reach out to your prospects, do sales, do workflows, and so on. Third one is for HR professionals in Excel. It's like a talent acquisition product where you can use it to reach out to prospects again, candidates, and get them into the company. So those are the three major products. And also we are a data company. So similar to SaaS, we also sell data as a service, what we call as a DaaS.
So then I would say you're at the right place. We're a marketing campus and an HR campus.
Absolutely.
So it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you, same here.
Okay. So having worked in diverse industries and across geographies for over 2 decades of your vast experience, what have been the most significant challenges in building and scaling teams from scratch? And how did you have to deal with that?
Absolutely. I will take it in a multiple geographical way because some of the challenges are unique in each of the geography. In my career, I think I had a great opportunity to do this multiple times over. I would take the first one outside India and come back to what I've done in India. One of the great opportunity I had in one of my previous company, which is Zebra Technologies, is to in a way start and grow the engineering center in Taipei. So it was very unique because I don't speak the local language. And I was pretty young at that time. So going to a different country with a different language, different culture, and starting those teams from scratch. And also the unique challenge there was I was pure and out embedded software guy, and starting and leading a center with not only software, but with electrical, mechanical, RF, antenna, and so on. So it was a very unique challenge. I would say coming back to India, starting a center for my recent job, in a way growing that center from 100 to 500 people in a 2-year plus. And this was purely, again, I'm coming from an engineering background and growing the teams from go-to-market, DaaS teams, data research, and obviously back-end operations on finance and HR ops and so on. I think the challenges are very unique. I'll come to the uniqueness and then come to the common aspects of it. I think the uniqueness in outside India is that there is more ecosystem that's stable and proven where you can attract candidates and go to the candidates and so on, right? I think India, it's very unique because India is vast. In Taipei, it was one site, right? In India, when we wanted to grow in Chennai, which is where our centers basically started in, we were able to grow from 100 to 200, I would say, very fast, because it was mostly around go-to-market and some of the back-end operations. But when we wanted to grow up the scale, I would say beyond 200 in multiple layers, for example, when we wanted to get to software architects or director of data and so on, we did hit I would say, a ceiling there in terms of the talent pool. The reason is very simple. Chennai is still a very, I would say, growing market in terms of software talent and other places. And it's also more of a conservative market where people are tied to their company for a long term. For example, the Zohos, the Freshworks, and so on, where they want to stay for a longer time, right? And also, it's a very unique situation where people wanted to join an established company where the company is known to their parents and in-laws and so on, right? So I think that posed a very, very different challenge. And that's where we started saying, okay, we are hitting I would say, a ceiling in terms of growth of going into up level. what do we do, right? And that's where we started looking at beyond Chennai. For example, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune. So we did a lot of survey around these cities in terms of a talent, in terms of cost, right? And as we wanted to grow outside, obviously you know that Bangalore or Hyderabad would be a notch above in terms of the budgeting that we needed to attract this talent. So we decided after a lot of research that we wanted to go with Bangalore. Due to some of the history that some of our US and US leadership had with Bangalore, as they have grown in Bangalore in their previous company, and they had people known and they know the talent pool, the talent landscape, and so on. So we selected Bangalore. I would say that posed challenges for some of the teams in terms of the budgeting, cost, and things like that. But it also gave us a diversity to look at. Again, with Bangalore, different challenges come in, right? Because people leave fast, the attrition goes high, not only the cost, right? So I would say, how do you, not only outside the country, within a country, you come up with different challenges, right? So the ecosystem needs to support it. What I mean by the ecosystem is you need a local facilities person, you need a local HR person, you need a local people experience and people operations person who understand all this, right? I would say as we grew, we could, and you don't know these challenges at the start, so you learn as you go, as we grow into the different sites and the different headcount. And also when we wanted to bring different teams into India, because we were mostly, when we started, it was mostly go-to-market, a little bit of R&D, but we wanted to grow data research and data as a service. So some of the challenges that we face in those teams were pretty different. So should we place them in Chennai? Should we place them in Bangalore or at both places? The reason is Chennai, we had grown very fast, up to 200 people. So we had an ecosystem that would support a 24/5 operations, for example. But Bangalore, we started small, but we couldn't grow as fast as to support a 24/5. What I mean by that is you need to have a transport, cabs and others to pick up the people in the evening, to drop them back and so on. And we also need to provide dinner. And what I mean by dinner is obviously a night dinner, but also like a 2 a.m. or a 1 a.m., I would say a healthy snack or so on. So the people who are working in the night shift need that, right? So end-to-end management of these whole operations, I would say those are the challenges you would face in different places. So to conclude, I would say the ecosystem needs to be strong. You need to have an exact site strategy, not only the place site strategy, but the organization strategy, which teams, how much, and also the time zone challenges, right? Like how much time you want to use a site for, what types of teams are there, and how do you support all that, right? All that encompasses the holistic, I would say, a solution to this problem.
Yeah, I think it's a very fair put forward, that point that was put forward, that we think there's differences in a global level, but there's so many differences in the south while you're moving from Chennai to Bangalore to Hyderabad. I think that's something that we have to learn as MBA grads while we're moving forward.
Yep.
So you've played a vital role in growing ZoomInfo, like you've said, from 0 to 100, 100 to 200. It's a different journey. And also growing the employees from 100 to 500 employees in just 2 years. So what strategies and innovations were put forward to grow your company in that level? What was the strategy to play
Absolutely.
that?
I think we covered parts of it in the previous one. The site strategy was very important to your point. And also when we go to a different site, you need to understand the local nuances there. What I mean by that is there is a cultural part to it, because Chennai is still local. What I mean is people do speak more Tamil, and you wouldn't, though there is a cosmopolitan aspect, but that's very less compared to a Bangalore. So when you go there to a Bangalore, the talent you attract, the different talent pool is diverse. So how do you come up with your strategy to attract the talent? And in Chennai, it is also again different, right? I'll take one example too. So the first point is attracting the right talent. And for that, one of the things in Chennai and a little bit in Bangalore too is the selling the brand. For example, we are ZoomInfo, but people would say, are you Zoom video, right? So there's, and what do you do, right? And stuff like that. So that's more of a challenge in Chennai, where you need to sell the brand, how good you are to compare to the local brands, which are there for a long time, like ChargeBee, and we spoke about Zoho and Freshworks and so on. Bangalore, it's more of selling a brand a little bit, but more of a work that you would do, the vision of that, right? So as you go to the multi-site and the diverse audience, what type of brand value you need to build. You can't just say ZoomInfo is great, it's a public company, it's a $1.2 billion, we are valued, the culture is great, it's a startup culture, so on. Those are common threats that you would paint to both the audience. But in terms of the particular nuances, you have to be very, very cognizant of what you talk to the candidates, what you talk to the prospects, and so on. I would say those are the two parts that we need to attack at the front. And as part of that, we discussed a little bit in the first part, what types of teams you want to grow, and what type of teams you want to scale up very fast, and where is the BCP in terms of the business continuity plan. Do you want to grow like an 80% team at one site and maybe 20% as a BCP, or you would say 50-50? So what type of strategies you want to do it? And it could be multiple aspects, right? The talent pool, the budget, and also the 24/5, 24/7 operations we spoke about. The last part of that piece of organizing the growth plan is also aligning with your global leadership. We touched upon that a little bit because my global leadership sits in two places. One is US, obviously, also in Israel. So these two are like a bigger sites, and they have a lot more higher leadership, and they are the ones, this is the leadership that grows their teams in India. So how do you align that type of an expectation to them, and how do you grow with them is an important aspect, right? Hey, do you want to grow R&D in both places, or in R&D, particular products do you want to grow at one place, and what are the reasons for that, and how do you collaborate and in a way set that vision for these sites is very important. And these are the two aspects most important: setting the strategy for hiring, what type of people, where do you want to hire from. The second is, as part of that, is a brand building. So how do you align these two and then go back to the leadership and get the stuff done, right? The third part is also very important. What we need to do is setting up the ecosystem. What I mean by that is you need a very strong talent acquisition team, because that's a team that you depend on to hire the right talent, set the strategy, and then working with that talent acquisition team also need to work with the global compensation team, for example. The local HR team needs to work with the global HR team to align the processes. And also they're setting the expectation to the hiring managers in US who are used to people joining in 2 weeks' time, where in India it takes from minimum 2 to 3 months. So they cannot set up a product plan or a delivery plan saying that, hey, the person will join in 2 weeks, they can start production or being productive from a month. It is not going to happen in India. So how do you set those expectations? And also with the global compensation team, that India, the salaries go up. For example, Bangalore, every 6 months you need to revisit, or even at 3 months, right? Maybe Chennai, it's a little bit lesser. But US, due to the inflation, due to the stable market, maybe they can do it at 2%, 3% merit increases, right? So how do you align with that? And the ecosystem also need to be robust in seeing what's the lay of the land in these sites, right? For example, Chennai, Bangalore, and India, what type of companies you are benchmarking against? For example, R&D, obviously we were hiring from the best in the business in terms of Google, Walmart, and so on. But maybe a DaaS teams and a go-to-market, we are hiring from a different set of tier 2 companies, if you will. So what are the benchmarks of the salary, the processes? When I say the processes, like the hiring time, the whole process of do you come to 3 days to office, the RTO policy, and so on, right? What are your processes and expectation benchmarking against? So, and also, can the talent acquisition team can scale? One of the challenges personally I faced when I joined the team was we had like 4 to 5 people TA team. But we were, to your point, when we hired almost 270 people in the first year, and last year we hired around 214 people. So 6 people hiring, you can imagine that means they are going to hire like 10 to 15 per head per month, which is like a really an uphill task, right? So how are you going to scale up your TA team? And you don't want to hire too many TA people because you don't know how many people you're going to hire. You will work with your global leadership to have an estimate how many you're going to hire, but that estimate usually goes very up or very down, right? Based on market condition and so on. So that's an estimate, if you will. So what we did very consciously is how do we extend or expand our ecosystem in the TA team? We went with RPO teams, RPO companies who can give us TA people to hire. We also went with TA consultants or contractors who can join our team for short intervals. and also where our TA team lacked experience or depth or expertise. For example, is it engineering that we need help hiring? Is it go-to-market? Is it account receivables finance teams? Where do we need help, right? So identifying those partners, if you will, in India, who can work with you very closely and scale up. And some of the teams also, we created an NOC team, which is a network operations center inside our center in India. We work with some of the good contracting companies who can create those NOC in India inside our site. So I would say working with the teams in globally to understand, can they go with contractors? Can they go with, they will go with FTEs or full-time recruits, right? How do you identify those? How do you identify the ecosystem to expand your teams where they need help in terms of contractors or RPO teams and so on? And how do you hire fast? I think that's the most important thing. So 3 parts to conclude. I would say brand building, and how do you go with that brand building separately. The second part is, in a way, expanding that ecosystem, setting the site strategy. And third is working with your global leaders to set those expectations and hire, right? So I think these 3 parts was the biggest challenge. I wouldn't say we have figured it yet because it's a continuous challenge, but we are getting there.
Okay. So as you were talking, there was an exponential growth in the number of people that you hired. There are multiple stakeholders, multiple sites. There's one in Chennai, there's one in Bangalore, one global. How do you keep the culture intact when there are so many stakeholders with different expectations? How is the culture intact and how is everyone on the same page?
Great
There's
question.
Definitely a lot of effort that goes into it.
Absolutely. Again, similar to all other questions, right? It's a conscious effort. One of the things when I joined, and we are still trying to keep that, is aligning to your global culture. We are a GCC. We will not be going rogue, if you will, for a lack of a better word. We have to align all our culture to our mothership. So it's very important that you bring your nuances to that. It could be innovation, which we'll talk more. It could be a little bit of the cultural diversity you bring in. And all those things is very important. But how do you still keep aligning to the global culture? And what I mean by that is, our global culture was still, though it was a $1.2 billion public company, publicly listed company in New York Stock Exchange, but everywhere we were still acting like a startup. What I mean by that is, it's one of the most fast-paced companies I've ever worked with in terms of a decision, in terms of a fail fast, in working with customers, in working with a wider ecosystem. We still work as a startup. That extends into taking people into, when we take people in, are they really entrepreneurs? Do they behave like, thinking like entrepreneurs, think like innovators, think like they can own end-to-end, right? Like a pure startup. So how do you work and align to that values of your mothership is very important. And how do you keep driving to the company? What I mean by that, again, is when you take in a director or a senior director or any other leadership or even the low-level role, right? How are they aligned to those values? Have they shown those values? And also, are they hands-on? You don't want to be a people manager. You don't want to be just sitting at a room and not talking to your people. And how do you break down the silos inside the company, right? I think that's the most important aspect as you grow fast. You shouldn't forget your base values. And how do you keep that reiterating to the companies, to the people that you join your company? And it becomes more and more difficult as you grow into multiple sites, right? So how do you bring these sites together? Because we spoke a lot about the local nuances, the local cultural aspect between different sites inside Chennai and different teams inside Chennai. Because go-to-market team, you hire from different aspects of the field. When you hire data researchers who are a non-engineering graduates, if you will, or a finance people who come from a different background, like science graduate, CA people. So, and obviously, as you mentioned, when you hire from MBA schools for product managers or for leadership positions. So how do you bring all these people together, align them into a single culture of what I spoke about, right? Behave like entrepreneurs, behave like innovators. Last but not the least, the cultural part we mentioned, or I spoke about, is the bringing the cultural nuance. The biggest value that India can bring inside for any GCC or any global company is breaking down the silos. If you go to US office or an Israel office, for a Zoom Info, you or many other companies, as you would see in India landscape, you wouldn't see multiple teams sitting together under one roof. Where a CSM, a customer success manager, can go and walk to a product manager and talk about an issue a customer spoke about, or a customer support guy, not slacking or making a phone call or setting up a Zoom call, again walking to a product or an engineering guy, hey, I just got a ticket or I just got a call with the customer and he showed this problem. Is this a real problem? Can we fix it? Or do you want me to do you want to listen to this customer call? I'm right now on a Zoom in this meeting room. Do you want to walk in? So how do you bring these multiple teams together, which worldwide, it's very difficult to bring those value together. I think that's a nuanced aspect of it. And also the energy that India brings in. And that's something that global teams really, really look for. Obviously, we bring in so much new talent. What I mean by that is we go to colleges, we go to universities to bring in interns, we bring in a lot of fresh graduates, and we bring in more of younger blood into the system. So how do you harness that energy? And as you know, a lot of Indians for example, in Zoom Info in India, the average age is 27 to 28, right, out of this 500, and which will be higher in other regions. So how do you harness this young people, the young minds, and how do you give them enough work, enough ownership, right? I think that's the aspect that we look for. And last but not the least is, as these young minds and the people join, they are looking for visibility. How do you give that not only in the local stage, but also globally? Hey, India is doing this. These are the people who are creating this, right? And give those global roles to them in terms of a product ownership, in terms of engineering ownership. I think that's the part that they may join Zoom Info for all the cultural aspect we spoke about, but to make them stay in the company is giving them opportunities and the visibilities that you need to consciously do. I think that's part of the culture that you want to develop. And hopefully we are, and it's a continuous effort as we spoke about, right? And that's where, again, you have to fall down or fall back onto your ecosystem, the whole HR, the whole leadership that you are hiring. Make sure that they are aligned and they are reiterating that vision. And anywhere you see a person or a system or a process that is going against that cultural value and the ecosystem that we spoke about in terms of bringing that startup mentality or things like that, how do you get that very early out of that system? You can call it a weed, you can call it an exception in the system. You shouldn't take time to get that particular problem out of the system. It could be a process, it could be a person, it could be an idea. But how do you get that out of the system before it pollutes the larger ecosystem or a larger team? I think that's a conscious effort that we need to instill in the leadership.
Sir, like you've said, now the average age is around 27, 28. And as we see every day, I think youth is really trying to innovate something in the tech space. It's become a very attractive field. So what are your tips that you give to young entrepreneurs who want to innovate in the tech space, given that there's so much happening with AI, data analytics? How do they maneuver this space now?
Absolutely. As I told, one of our company values is entrepreneurship. Be an entrepreneur, if you will. So I don't think we are looking for an MNC or a GCC or any company right now. You don't want people just to do what they are told. It could be a software engineer, product manager, and so on. You want them to think like this product belongs to me, or this customer belongs to me, or this particular segment. It could be enterprise or a strat or SMB or a mid-market. If you own that segment, it belongs to me. So whatever area you are in, you want that person to feel that they own that. And to answer your particular question, for anybody, exactly to your point, who wants to start something or work in a company, you want them to be thinking like an entrepreneur, thinking that this is my market, this is my customer, this is my product. One of the things that AI is, before it, we still call it a flattened world, right? But I think AI is flattening the ecosystem more and more, because you can write code fast with GitHub Copilot. You can write email fast with all the copilots and all the chat GPT that you have. You can write an PRD ecosystem with a good PRD with 10 to 20 good prompts, right? And with an AI agent coming in, I think, can you do SDRs with AI? Because you have lots of SDRs in the market. AI agents do SDRs. AI agents do HR operations. AI agents do first level interviews. You have good AI agents that do first level coding challenges. So where is that people are going to add value? So two parts to it, right? How do you keep abreast with the whole ecosystem that's evolving at a lightning speed in terms of AI, in terms of Gen AI, normal AI, and stuff like that? How they are going to see a value between the technology and the people. What I mean by the people is the innovative aspects, the faster aspects, and so on. And also how they bring the security and the governance aspect to all this, right? I think that's where the people aspect is coming in. Coming to your particular question, how do you maneuver this ecosystem is, if you just create a point solution, it's not going to fly anymore. So how do you become a more of a, not a product or a market person? How do you become a platform person, right? Because I think that word makes more and more sense. I don't think anybody wants to be a product person or a product company anymore. You are becoming this platform person, platform company, if you will. The reason is, all the things that we are doing as a product person before, many of the things are taken care by the AI agent AI. And people are not looking at a point solution anymore. Where they are looking as, can you give me a platform solution? Because it takes time otherwise for a customer to see value. For example, for us, we started selling as a data company. I'll take that in a way, the analogy, and then we can go into multiple aspects of it. We were basically a data company, maybe 8 years back, 5 years back. We were selling company and personal data. Company data, all the firmographics data, your head counts, your headquarters, and things like that. Personal data is very simple, your email IDs, your phone numbers, and so on. Where did you work for? What are your skill sets? That is not enough anymore in the market, right? How do you, in a way, encapsulate or put a wrapper around it and become a platform? That's what we're becoming, like a go-to-market AI intelligent platform. The reason is, people have their own first-party data, their third-party data in terms of phone calls, which they have with their customers, their prospects, their candidates. What are you going to get insights from that phone calls? I have this vast amount of CRM data, for example, where I have my salespeople have put a lot of information into my CRM. How are you going to utilize data? Don't just give me the phone numbers. Give me, if I need to reach out, what time I should reach out? What should I reach out to this prospect? When I say the prospect, it could be a marketing prospect, a sales prospect, or a candidate, right? What do I talk? Give me the talking points. Give me the signals and a background. And give me also the time and the material that I need to go with them. And also a history and background in a very short note. And this has to be real time, right? So how do you fit in all this? And I have as I spoke, I have my CRM data, I have my conversational intelligence, I have my historical data. How do you bring all that into a platform? And I need to reach out through multiple aspects. It could be a phone call, it could be an email, or it could be LinkedIn messages. So we are talking about the ingress of all this data into the platform. We're talking about outgress or an outreach through multiple front ends. So how do you create this whole platform across all this, right? And that's only for the space I'm talking about. You can easily extend this to any other space, right? How are you going to become a supply chain platform? How are you going to become a healthcare platform? So I think not thinking from a pure product or a point perspective, looking at an ecosystem which will be sticky. That's what I meant by a platform. And how do you do every decision which is scalable? You can't write an API that only a particular problem can solve. You can't pick up a tech stack that will not be scalable tomorrow. When I say a tech stack, it could be as simple as a language or a database or anything, right? Is it scalable? That is scalable again. You are right now looking at this market, but tomorrow you want to onboard your vendors, which means you may need to look at a no-code, low-code platform. You may need to look at global thing. You have to look at if you're a data company, you can't just say, I'll be in US. You have to extend tomorrow to Europe, which means, are you having a platform that's GDPR extensible, enable? So I think, how do you look at your any decision? It could be people, process, or a product that's platform enabled, that's extensible, that's scalable. That's the most important aspect I would say anybody should think of.
That's a wonderful answer. I think it's a very important takeaway from it. More data is definitely not better data.
Absolutely.
I think that's something that we have to learn. This generation's got to learn. Now, that being said, with so much data, with so many tools, what the line between what is ethical and unethical becomes a little blurry. And what keeps this intact is a very strong leadership. And what is your leadership policy? How have you tackled things over the years? Because things that were ethical maybe a while ago is not ethical anymore now. You can't tap onto people's phones to collect so much data. So what is your leadership policy to deal with all of this?
Absolutely. I think for me, always, I've been saying to myself and my team always that leadership is really a blessing, right? And a role as a leadership is really a blessing. So what I mean by that is, how do you keep your own goals, your own dreams a little bit on the side and work on others' goals, right? And if you're not ready for that, then you shouldn't be a leader. I think to your point, the old age managers, and I spoke about a little bit in the front, right? Where you don't want people managers, you don't want people who will sit in a corner office and never gets out. And your exact question, you don't want leaders who just look at data and make decisions, right? There is the softer aspect of people. You want people who mingle with other people, who work for other people. I would say that was always my mantra. And I've been very fortunate to have witnessed or worked with such leaders who have put me and my other persons I worked with in front of them, where they have taken me they have invested in me, they have given me guidance, they have mentored me, right? So I feel I've taken bits of that for some of the leaders. Some of the leaders are good in working with people like me straight. And I always tell some of the leaders, you just observe, right? And I've told some of these leaders that I'm like an XLRI to many of those, right? I observe from your distance, I learn a lot from you. So how do you create that in yourself, being that example to people? And how do you create that culture to your next level leadership? So I think that's the basic mantra. Can you become that leadership person who people would want to be? And create that culture for others where they put their team members in front. We spoke about visibility. Are they thinking about making your team visible, your team members visible? We spoke about opportunities. Are you really thinking about how much more opportunities they can bring in? We spoke about working with other teams. One of the big things, I think, a growing company, if you're working as siloed, it's really going to hurt the company as a whole. So, and India, we spoke about the value that you can bring down where sitting at the same time zone, sitting under the same roof. So how does your leaders put their beliefs and baggages separately and work with other leaders? And as a overall leader, can I and others bring that platform for these leaders to come together, collaborate? One of the example I will take, we are a data company. At the end of the day, how do you bring all these various data people together? The reason is there could be a lot of innovations when these people working on multiple data coming together. We have a data research, we have a data analyst, we have a data pipeline. We have people who work on DaaS, that's a data as a service, who give data cubes to other people. There are like n number of data teams that work in the company. And when you bring these people together, even as a small meeting for every 3 weeks, 4 weeks, the value that comes out of it in terms of, hey, I'm doing the same thing. Can we do this together? Is there a repetition of services? Is there a repetition of work? So this on the product side and the process side. There's a very good people side that comes out. Hey, one of my person is working on this Python script. Do you want to use him? Because he has 10% of the time. Or this person wants to go into a different technology. Do you have a DevOps role in your team? Can I move this person so that I would rather keep him in my company rather than I'm losing him, right? So I don't mind if he moves out of my team. So how do you bring this aspects of the people aspect, the product aspect, the process aspect, I would say that's the leadership mantra we want to instill in everybody. Again, it comes to the 3 Ps in a way, but how do you give a platform for people to talk more, put their people more, and tying all that to the larger vision of the company, the larger values of the company, right? So I would say I always see me and other leaders as an enabler or orchestrator, if you will, which means today I may write a code, tomorrow I may do a back-end work, or as good as if people don't want you to help, your team doesn't want to help, can you just be that person who brings them pizza, right? That's it. So can you show them the vision, repeatedly communicate that vision, and help them in any way possible, and show them what's going to come around the corner, because you are at a very, very unique position of looking at things from a 30,000 feet or a 50,000 feet. Maybe your team is not able to see that. So what are the challenges that you are seeing that's going to hit them, and how do you communicate them without scaring them, but guiding them, and also giving them the tools? It could be training, it could be new opportunities to work with external vendors and what we spoke about. The third could be just mentoring and coaching them. These are the challenges. Are you getting ready? And challenging them in a way, right? I would say those are the things I would say we want to consciously follow.
That's a wonderful answer. It's very important to be empathetic and also to put the vision of the company above individuals. That is an important. Okay, with other things like the 70-hour work week and all of that and talk, how do you maintain a work-life balance, considering you're dealing with vast number of people, multiple projects? How do you manage it?
Absolutely. I think, I always think if you are passionate, if you want to do something that you really want to do, you will find time, right? I always tell myself, Elon Musk has the same 24-hour day, but think of the things a single person is doing, right? He's running multiple companies in different fields. We are not able to do one thing, but he's across space, across cars, across AI, across people. Now he's into politics, right? So these are just examples or inspirations that, if you will, taking that back to your life in a way. How do you then plan your days? There are multiple ways people suggest. Of course, you can get up early. A lot of people do that. I try to do that at multiple instances where can I get up at 5 o'clock and plan my day and work on things and so on. I don't think there is a hard and fast solution to it, which I can give or anybody can give. I think each individual needs to figure out its own. But personally, I feel if you can put your health, you can put your family, and then your passion and your work life, which comes together, all these 3 in equal priorities, I think you will find time. You may feel in a day, I need to give, or I'm giving extra time to this part because that demands it. And then many of the people are good at compartmentalizing. So can you compartmentalize that this is the time I'm going to give, can I concentrate on this, then I get back to that and I'm going to concentrate on something else. I try to do that, not always successful, but I think you have to figure on your own what works for you. But these are the top priorities, right? Your family, your health, and the work that you want to work with. And last but not the least, if you love the people that you work with, it's an extended family for me, right? So I think, and for many people, right? And the vice versa. So I don't think there is a solid line I draw between family, work, and so on. I know many of my peers and many of my friends don't do that. So how do you, in a way, don't push yourself to draw that solid line? Because I'm sure that's gone with COVID and so on. So you're going to take work, but can you still give that importance to family when you're at family and doing work? And when you're at work, I'm sure you're going to get a call from your kids saying that this is what I want, right? Or you're from your spouse. So how do you keep that balance? How do you keep not drawing or pushing yourself saying that, hey, I need to switch off and switch on, things like that? That's what I try to practice. That's what I try to talk to people. The last but not the least, can you have your own ecosystem to discuss this? It could be your spouse, it could be your friends. As you grow up the leadership, what you will find is it's very silent and siloed at the top. as you grow on top. So how do you create your ecosystem, right? So as you grow more and more, you're not going to find many people in the peak, right? You'll find more people in the base camp, but as you travel more, less and less people you're going to find. So how do you create your own support system where you can talk about these, discuss these things? I think that's very important. It could be your peer, it could be your spouse, it could be outside your family, but it's very important you figure it out very early, where you can be vulnerable, where you can discuss those things, and where you can hear from other people who have done this, right? I would say those are the things that will teach you better. But I don't think there's a solid line that people should draw, because those are gone. And with many companies getting back to 3 weeks or three days a week or 5 days a week, it's going to get tougher and tougher if you do that on your own.
That's a very honest and fair answer. It's a very real answer. Is there any one final mantra that you would give to MBA grads? Now we're going to enter the market. What's that one thing we got to remember when we're entering the market?
I think we covered all of those things. The one thing is, I would say is, we spoke about the platform, the product and people and so on, right? One of the things I would say, and empathy, as you mentioned, and so on. One of the things I would say is, be rather a mover rather than being a perfectionist, right? The reason I'm saying is, I think this is my personal take, so obviously take it with a pinch of salt. But if you're going to be a perfectionist, which is going to take months and years together, the market is not ready for that, right? What I mean is market, your customers are moving very fast. We can debate on whether that's right or wrong. But I think the perfectionist world is a little bit on the past. It's now fail fast. Can I try it fast? Can I see the value fast? So how can you, if you're a perfectionist, great, but can you balance it with the speed and the agility? And if you are a very speed and agile person, how the aspects of the perfections that you can bring it in? I would say that's a major thing I'm seeing in the market. And how do you balance it with how technology is going to disrupt that, right? Because the skill aspect of people are taking a backseat. If you're a great coder, yeah, you were, then how much of that GitHub Copilot is bringing in? If you're a great writer, a product manual writer or anything, how much of that is going to be replaced with a ChatGPT? Things like that. So how do you evolve as a person into that skill set where you thought it's very unique, but parts of that may not be unique? Obviously, there are hallucinations and things like that that maybe the tool cannot bring in. So identifying that a human aspect of that, I think that's the main part. You cannot be a process person anymore. How do you bring the human aspect if you're a HR or a marketing or a sales? Those are the two aspects. Bring in that speed and agility and in a way, I would say, manage it with perfection. And the second is, what is the human aspect that you are going to bring in and merge it with a technology aspect of it, of the things that we are seeing? I would say those are the two aspects, just be cognizant about.
Yeah, very well put, sir. Some of us had to hear that we have to be movers and not perfectionists. Very well put. And with that, we come to the end of this. And it was a great time having this opportunity to interview you. I've had a lot to learn. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And it's been a pleasure for being here. And I'm sure I'm going to learn more from you guys in the day and a half. So thank you.